Have you ever stepped into a luxurious 5-star hotel room to start your vacation, but instead of throwing yourself onto the soft bed, the first thing you do is frantically search every corner, from under the table to the curtains, just to look for listening devices? Have you ever had to constantly change your phone number, be wary of everyone around you, and every time you go out, you have to deploy several decoy cars to shake off the tail? It sounds like a script from an action movie, but ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly the incredibly suffocating real life of Prince Harry right now. Just recently, an internal security document created by his own team was leaked. It exposes a shocking truth. Harry is living in a state of extreme panic. He truly believes that he and his wife and children are being targeted every day. But what makes us question is, look back at his homeland. The British royal family is showing a completely opposite image. No panic, no fuss, or show of protective force. King Charles, Prince William, or Princess Catherine still appear extremely calm, comfortably interacting with the crowd, and dedicated to their work. So, what is the truth behind this extreme fear? Is this really a threat to Harry, or is it just a media tactic that has unintentionally gone too far? I really want to know your thoughts. Comment number 1 right now if you believe Harry is truly in danger. Or comment number 2 if you think this is just a way to attract attention. Let us dive deep into this story right now. Let us start today's story with an image completely opposite to what we usually think about a relaxing vacation. What do you think a vacation in Portugal would be like? Warm sun, blue sea, a cocktail in hand, and absolute relaxation. Right. But for Prince Harry, it was a truly suffocating nightmare. Reports from close sources indicate that, right in the middle of an expensive vacation in Portugal, Harry broke down. He actually shed tears. Not out of emotion or happiness, but because of the extreme stress weighing on his shoulders. A grown man, on vacation with his family, completely broke down because the obsession with security constantly surrounded his mind. This state of panic did not just stop at secret tears in a closed room. It spiraled out of control and led to one of the most bizarre moves we have ever witnessed in the press. What happened right after that night? Everything exploded on the news sites. Harry team did an unimaginable thing. They deliberately leaked a highly confidential personal security document to the media, specifically to ITV reporter Chris Shipp. You heard that right. A top-secret document, something that should only be discussed privately in the meeting rooms of intelligence agencies, was sent straight to a major television station to be broadcast for the whole world to see. Let us dive into the details of this report a bit. This is not an objective risk assessment from MI5 or MI6, the top intelligence security agencies of the UK. Not at all. This is a report drafted by the very private security company that Harry is paying $3 million a year to hire. Practically speaking, when you pay someone $3 million just to look for threats, they will certainly scour and find you all the most dangerous scenarios to prove that the money you spend is completely worth it. This report boldly claims that there are up to 6 terrorist threats targeting Harry and his family, most of which originate from the UK. And this is the biggest contradiction, the point so illogical that it makes anyone with a practical mind scratch their head. Let us analyze this issue with common sense. If you truly believe that your life is hanging by a thread, if you believe that extremists are stalking your small family, what would you do? You would stay silent? You would hide all your schedules, all your weaknesses, and all information about your level of protection. You would never want the bad guys to know what you are afraid of, or where your security system has loopholes. But what did Harry do? He took that very detailed security report, gave it to the television station, and indirectly shouted to the whole world that, "Look, I am a big target. My threat level is at the highest." This action does not bring any layer of protective armor at all. On the contrary, it is like a challenge, an extremely dangerous act of exposing his own weaknesses. By making his fear and security details public, he is essentially painting a giant target on his own back, and worse, on the children he constantly claims he is trying to protect. Why would you bring your fear for your children's safety out to make it a media focal point? This really makes no sense at all. Because of this suffocating illogicality, observers and royal experts were completely stunned. They called this the craziest own goal, an unprecedented misstep in the entire history of the British royal family. You are trying to convince the British government and the Ravex security agency to restore full-time protection using taxpayer money, but the way you do it is by leaking classified information to the public. That is a serious violation of the most basic confidentiality principles. A true security expert never publishes threat documents, because doing so only provides free intelligence to those with malicious intent. Analysts frankly point out that this move not only does not help Harry win back the police escort team as he wishes, but it also proves to the royal family and the British government one clear thing: he is too risky and impulsive. No state agency can trust entrusting national security privileges to someone willing to throw those documents to the press just to exert pressure or create a wave of pity from public opinion. Instead of showing himself as an important figure who needs strict government protection, Harry is exposing an uncontrolled panic, turning his own life into a noisy media circus. And the consequence of this wrong move will surely make the door to returning to the protection of the British royal family slam shut coldly. The panic that led to that terrible document leak decision did not come out of nowhere. It originated from a moment that shattered all of Harry's illusions right before his return trip to the UK. To clearly understand the situation, we must look back at how the royal family reacted when they heard he wanted to bring his wife and children back to the country. There was no coldness or turning their backs here. King Charles, as a father, truly opened the door. He made an incredibly safe offer, a separate suite right inside the royal residence, said to be Buckingham Palace. Let us look at reality for a moment. Buckingham Palace is not just a house, it is a steel fortress. Armed guards are on duty at every entrance, state-of-the-art surveillance camera systems, and strict control procedures to the point that even a passing fly would be detected. There, the level of safety is absolute. For someone who always lives in the obsession of media stalking and extremist threats like Harry, this offer should have been the most perfect answer. He would not need to spend a single penny on private protection when stepping through those gates. But Harry calculated in a completely different way. In his mind, agreeing to bring the two children, Archie and Lilibet, back, plus accepting to stay at his father's house, was a golden ticket. He firmly believed that, with the appearance of the grandchildren, the British government would have no choice but to concede and restore the entire highest-level security protection package for him. Harry craves the image of the old days. He wants to see the police motorcycle escort team, the sirens clearing the way, and the armed forces closely following 24/7 every time he and his family step out of the palace to travel around the UK. Deep down, Harry still believes he inherently deserves that privilege, despite the fact that he left. He believed his father would use his power to intervene in the security system for the safety of his grandchildren. However, he forgot an extremely harsh truth: taxpayer money and national security do not operate based on family affection. The decision to grant protection rights does not lie with King Charles, but with RAVEC, the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. And this agency delivered a very cold, straightforward verdict: there are no exceptions. There will be no full-time protection team. There will be no fleet of motorcycles clearing the way. Instead, what Harry received was just the phone number of a police liaison officer. That is right. If there is an emergency on the road, he will have to call for help himself. This procedure, frankly speaking, is almost no different from an ordinary citizen calling the police. From the expectation of a grand national-level escort fleet falling down to just a contact phone number, that was truly a hard slap to Harry Pride. Internal sources revealed that Harry completely collapsed and shed tears when receiving this notice. He felt deeply hurt and abandoned by his family. From a human perspective, this suffocation and disappointment are understandable. When you once stood at the top, always surrounded by the most solid security shield, being suddenly stripped of everything and having to fend for yourself certainly brings a feeling of instability. But if we look at it logically and fairly, what did Harry really expect? The core issue here is that he stubbornly refuses to accept the consequences of his own decision. When you adamantly abandon your royal duties, fly to America to pursue freedom, and sign million-dollar media contracts to tell family stories, you cannot demand to keep the privilege card named British taxpayer money. You cannot live like a private entertainment figure, yet ask a country to pay a multi-million-pound bill to protect you on your personal trips. Harry's collapse does not come from him being pushed into danger, but from his ego being rejected. The fact that King Charles firmly stood aside, not intervening in Ravek's decision, is an extremely clear message. The king loves his children and grandchildren, is willing to provide the safest accommodation, but he will not create a constitutional crisis, not overstep the government just to cater to his son's personal demands. Not daring to face this harsh reality is exactly what is pushing Harry deeper into a loop of disappointment, turning his own life into something more suffocating than ever. It is this stubbornness, refusing to accept the harsh reality from the British police refusal, that pushed Harry into a much worse crossroads. When realizing the state system no longer throws money around to shield him, instead of learning to adapt to the life of an ordinary person, he chose to create a private defense system so extreme that it borders on madness. And this is exactly when Harry's life truly entered an incredibly suffocating state. Experts and those close to him call the prince's current state by a term, hypervigilance syndrome. But let us put those academic words aside. Let me explain to you what that feeling is actually like. Hypervigilance is not about checking if your doors are securely locked before going to bed, or carefully looking around when passing through a deserted area. No. Hypervigilance is when your brain constantly, 24/7, sounds a red alarm, even when you are sitting in your own safe living room or enjoying an expensive vacation. Let us try looking at his current daily habits. Secret sources reveal that whenever Harry's family steps into a hotel room or a rented house, the first thing they do is not drop their luggage, take a deep breath, and relax. The personal security team will immediately rush in. They use specialized equipment to scan every millimeter, overturning everything from under the bed, lampshades to every electrical outlet on the wall, just to look for any hidden listening devices. Think about it. Living while always believing someone is secretly recording you, someone is watching your every move. Is there ever a moment of true comfort? The story does not just stop at the hotel room. The way Harry controls his social relationships has also become isolated to an extreme level. He changes his phone number constantly, like people change clothes. Old friends, people who used to be very close, now wanting to talk to him, cannot even pick up the phone to call directly. They have to go through dozens of strict layers of censorship from a small circle of trusted assistants, having to prove that their call is safe before it can reach the prince's ears. Even stepping out of the house turns into an intelligence campaign. Every time Harry travels, instead of just getting in a car and going, the security team frequently requires the use of decoy cars. That means they will have several identical cars rushing out in multiple directions to distract imaginary stalkers. My friends, let us look straight at the truth. Harry is living in Montecito, California. That is one of the most peaceful, quiet, and wealthy neighborhoods in America. A list: Hollywood superstars, tech billionaires still drive themselves to buy coffee, go to the supermarket there every day without needing a single bodyguard accompanying them. Harry is not living in the middle of a war zone. The fact that he has to apply these intelligence-level security procedures exposes a mind that is deeply traumatized, paranoid, and seriously out of control. And this is the saddest truth in this whole story. In essence, security was created to bring you peace of mind, so you can put aside your worries and live freely. But with Harry, that security cover worth $3 million a year has completely backfired. It is no longer a barrier protecting him from the outside world, but it has become the iron bars of an invisible prison, holding his own mind captive. Every of his plans, from a simple family dinner to a flight, never begins with joy or excitement. It always starts with a haunting question: what is the worst-case scenario here? They always assume that someone is watching, someone is listening, someone knows their location to plan an attack. This constantly defensive mindset, always waiting for a disaster to strike, truly drains a person emotionally. Harry's few remaining friends all admit that they feel sorry watching him live like that. They only hope he can bravely lower that defensive shield to find peace, before fear completely swallows him whole. Worse still, the way he passes this deep stress and psychological trauma onto the children is what is truly alarming. Children are very sensitive. They cannot have a normal childhood if their father is always living in a state of readiness to fight imaginary ghosts. The fact that Harry constantly clings to fear, constantly upgrades his private protection system just to prove to the world that he is still very important, that he is in danger, is actually stripping away the very freedom he once swore to trade his whole family for. This suffocation is not forced upon him by anyone else, but by himself around his own neck. And what makes people feel the most bitter, which also highlights the absurdity in all his actions, is when we look back at the prince's homeland. While he is struggling with panic in America, the royal family in the UK is doing something completely opposite. There is absolutely no panic, no conspiracy theories, and certainly no security reports intentionally leaked to the press to signal the public. Instead, what the British royal family is showing is an incredibly steady calmness. Let us take the most vivid example that just happened: Princess Catherine at the Wimbledon tennis tournament. Imagine this. Wimbledon is not a closed room. It is one of the largest, loudest, and most crowded public sporting events on the planet. Tens of thousands of people from all over the world flock there, sitting closely together on open stands. If we apply Harry's worst-case scenario mindset, an event like Wimbledon would be a true security nightmare. Thousands of eyes focused on you, hundreds of camera lenses flashing constantly. The distance between you and the public is almost zero. Yet, how did Princess Catherine appear? She stepped out looking incredibly radiant, relaxed, and confident. There was no barricade of scowling bodyguards in black suits forming a human wall to shield her. There were no massive police escorts clearing the streets or decoy cars circling outside the stadium gates. Catherine comfortably stepped out of her car, smiled brightly, waved to the crowd, and sat in the stands, enjoying the match, just like any other sports-loving spectator. That scene, spoken fairly and most sharply, is a wordless but extremely powerful response, directly striking at Harry's panicked claims. Remember that Catherine has just gone through a very difficult health period. If anyone at this moment has the most legitimate reason to withdraw, to demand strict, multi-layered protection and stay away from crowds, it would be her. But she did not do that. Why? Because Catherine understands the true nature of a royal figure very well. She knows that the safety of a royal member does not come from building a very high wall or hiding behind armed forces. True safety and true power come from the connection, respect, and affection that the public has for you. When you do not fear your people, they will respond with love. At the same time, let us look up north a bit, in Scotland. King Charles and Prince William are also busy carrying out their historical duties. They just attended the ceremony of the Order of the Thistle in the capital Edinburgh. This is a highly formal traditional event, taking place right in the middle of the city's crowded streets. If there truly were terrorist threats targeting the British royal family, as Harry's private report painted, then the reigning king and the heir to the throne would certainly be the biggest targets. But how do they handle it? Everything goes incredibly smoothly and peacefully. The two men at the head of the royal family put on their traditional ceremonial robes, step out onto the streets, smile at the people, and fulfill their exact responsibilities. No drama appears whatsoever. No one goes on television to complain about whether the police security system is good enough or not, or how threatened they are feeling. After the ceremony, they simply return to the Palace of Holyrood House and gather for a private, cozy family dinner. The contrast here truly makes one reflect. On one side is Harry, who abandoned his duties, living in a peaceful, wealthy neighborhood in America, but is always paranoid that he is being hunted. On the other side are King Charles, Prince William and Princess Catherine, the people who actually hold national responsibilities, the top targets, yet they live and work with an incredibly calm demeanor. The core message the royal family is sending is very clear without needing any press release. No drama, no loud showboating. There is only silent dedication and responsibility to the job. That is how the royal family truly operates. Keep calm and carry on is not just a slogan printed on souvenir mugs sold to tourists. It is a life philosophy, the way they have survived and maintained their image for centuries. They face massive pressure and real risks every day, but they choose to entrust their safety to professional agencies and focus on serving the public. They never use security issues as a tool to polish their names or attract attention. It is the absolute calmness, steadiness, and professionalism from the royal family that inadvertently exposes a harsh truth about Harry. The fact that he constantly throws money at private security and overblows everything is actually backfiring. It does not make him look like an important figure in danger at all. On the contrary, it makes him look like someone struggling, desperately making noise to compensate for losing such a massive position. And from this overly clear contrast, we are forced to turn the whole issue upside down. If the British royal family still lives safely and calmly right in the center of attention, where does Harry's fear actually come from? Could it be that worries about terrorism or security are just a perfect smokescreen? Behind that suffocating security cover and those expensive reports, perhaps Harry and Meghan are hiding another fear, a fear much more realistic and bitter that they never want to admit to the world. Now, let us pull down this fog curtain, cast those expensive security reports aside to talk frankly with each other using common sense. If you were sitting and drinking coffee with me right now, I would tell you straight a truth that royal experts all see, but Harry and Meghan would never want to admit. The real motive behind this noisy security drama is not physical fear. They are not afraid of terrorists or snipers. The biggest, most haunting fear that keeps them awake every night is the prospect of them returning to the UK, but nobody cares. Think about it. Duncan Larcombe, a veteran royal journalist who was attached to Harry for many years, pointed out a very sharp detail. Harry and Meghan's worst nightmare is not that they get attacked. The real nightmare is they host an event, step outside, and the streets are empty. No cheering crowds. No fans lining up from 5 in the morning to welcome them. Or worse, and this is very likely to happen, given their rock-bottom approval ratings in the UK, is that they step out and get booed and whistled at by the crowd. For people with massive egos and a constant thirst for the spotlight like the Sussexes, being ignored is a fatal blow. So how do you avoid that humiliation? The answer is, create a security threat. When you make a big fuss that your life is threatened, you have a perfect excuse. If no one comes to see you, you can say, We requested to keep the schedule secret for safety reasons. If you dare not step out to meet the public, you can explain, the threat level is too high. The police advised us not to appear. The security cover inadvertently becomes a wonderful shield to hide the truth that they have lost public support. And if you still doubt this analysis, let me point out to you the glaring absurdities in their own actions. Everything absolutely does not fit together at all. First, let us talk about the children. The private report that Harry himself paid for claims that there are at least 6 extremist organizations targeting him in the United Kingdom. Reading that sounds chilling, right? But let us use the instinct of a parent to analyze this. If you truly, sincerely believe that a certain country is a terrorist hotspot aimed directly at your family, would you bring your 2 young children, Archie and Lilibet, on a plane flying straight into the center of that storm? Never. No parent would take that risk if they truly felt in danger. Unless, deep down, Harry knows perfectly well that the threat is exaggerated. Constantly using the children as an excuse to demand security, frankly speaking, seems more like an emotional blackmail tactic aimed at King Charles and the British government than a genuine concern for protecting his children. The second absurdity, and also the most ridiculous point, comes from Meghan herself. The couple constantly says the United Kingdom is too dangerous a place to set foot in. However, look at the travel schedule of Meghan. She is completely comfortable flying alone to Chicago without needing any national security team. She and her husband carry out pseudo-royal-style tours to Nigeria and Colombia. My friends, let us make a simple comparison. Colombia and Nigeria are countries where the US and UK State Departments continuously issue high-risk warnings about kidnapping, violence, and security instability. The United Kingdom, on the contrary, is one of the safest countries in the world with a top-tier intelligence system. Yet Meghan is ready to smile brightly, waving to the crowd in Colombia, but stubbornly refuses to return to the UK because she is afraid of danger. Does that sound absurd? The real reason is very simple. In Nigeria or Colombia, they are welcomed as VIP guests, cheered, and given the red carpet treatment. In the UK, she would have to face the cold reality. Her royal status is lost, and the public is no longer enthusiastic. She does not fear the UK because of security issues. She fears the UK because it is a place where no one is willing to play by the rules she sets. In summary, when we string all these things together, the true motive behind the security curtain is revealed more clearly than ever. Constantly complaining, suing, and leaking reports to the media actually serve 2 highly pragmatic purposes. First, it creates an aura of importance. Harry and Meghan want the world to see that, even though they have left the royal family, they are still world-class figures, important enough that extremist organizations must target them, important enough to have police cars clear the way. That is how they try to hold on to the last bit of halo of their royal status. Second, and this is perhaps the most practical factor, money. The luxurious life in America, maintaining a PR team, lawyers, and especially paying the $3 million annual bill for the private bodyguard team, is gradually becoming a massive burden as their media contracts show signs of drying up. Exerting pressure through the media, creating a victim persona, is a desperate attempt to force King Charles or the British government to soften their hearts, back down, and dig into taxpayer money to pay for their expensive lifestyle forever after. Sadly, while Harry is busy playing the role of a hunted man and calculating these media moves, back home, time is still quietly passing by, washing away the last opportunities for him to salvage the things that truly matter. If you look through the cover of the tabloids, past the arguments about privileges or money, you will see an incredibly deep family tragedy. Let us go back in time with me to a very special day that just happened. July 1st. If everything in this world followed its natural course, That would have been the 65th birthday of the late Princess Diana. Right on the eve of that anniversary, at the Palace of Holyrood House in Scotland, the British royal family held a very private gathering. In royal terminology, they call it a dine and sleep night, having dinner and staying overnight at the palace. No television lenses, no loud press releases. Only King Charles, Prince William, Princess Anne, Prince Edward and a few other core members sat together around the dining table. It was a family dinner. And even though no one officially said it to the media, all those who understand the inner workings of the royal family know one thing for sure: the presence of Diana and the absence of Harry were the very atmosphere enveloping the room that night. To understand the weight of this moment, we must talk about Diana, not as a fashion icon or a historical figure, but as a mother. Anyone who has ever learned about Diana knows what the greatest, most intense desire in her entire life was. She understood all too well the cruelty of the royal system. She knew that system always divides people into two halves, the heir and the spare. Diana devoted all her maternal dedication to trying to break that distinction. She always raised the two brothers with a clear dying wish: William would be the one wearing the crown, but Harry must be the one standing right behind, keeping his older brother from falling. She wanted Harry to become the most solid support, the only person in this world that William could trust absolutely, because they share the same blood, the same pain of losing their mother, and the same childhood under the scrutiny of the whole world. Diana wanted her two sons to be a team, unbeatable, inseparable. However, look at the reality of today. Try putting yourself in the shoes of Prince William on the 65th birthday of his mother. The next morning, William put on the dark blue velvet mantle of the Order of the Thistle, stepping out to perform national ceremonies. He smiled at the crowd, carrying out all procedures perfectly. But behind that professional smile was a bone-chilling loneliness. On a day when all memories of his late mother came rushing back, the only person on this planet who could understand exactly how William felt, the only person who could give him a sympathetic look without saying a single word, was thousands of miles away. And worse than being far away, that younger brother was busy using those very memories of his mother to sell books, make documentaries, and constantly attack the family. William has had to shoulder the responsibilities of a future king alone. He has had to face the loss of his mother alone. Harry should have been there. Harry should have been the one walking beside William, forming a solid shield to protect his older brother against the storms of public opinion, exactly as Diana once wished. But Harry chose to turn himself into the storm, crashing straight into the royal family. The absence of Harry at the dining table at Holyrood House was not just an empty chair. It was a symbol of a torn promise, a family legacy completely shattered. And this, my friends, is the greatest sadness, the true tragedy unfolding that Harry seems not to realize at all. It is the waste of time. Money can be earned back. Critical articles will eventually fade into oblivion. But time never returns. Over the past year, we have seen King Charles battle cancer. We see Princess Catherine also going through extremely difficult health treatments. Life is truly very fragile, even if you live in a palace. Human life does not wait for lawsuits, and illness does not care whose ego is bigger. Anniversaries like the 65th birthday of Diana should have been the perfect quiet moment for the men in that family to put aside their personal pride, sit down together and say, "What are we doing here? What would Mother think if she saw us like this now?" That should have been an opportunity to mend, to embrace each other and heal. But instead of cherishing that precious time, Harry is letting it slip through his fingers. He lets conflicts, unreasonable demands about security teams, paranoid fears, and an oversized personal ego obscure what is truly most important in life. Harry can pay millions of dollars to hire the best bodyguards to sweep for listening devices in hotel rooms, but he cannot pay to buy back a birthday of his mother next to his brother. He cannot buy back the years that the two children, Archie and Lilibet, should have grown up in the love of their grandfather and Uncle William. There is a heartbreaking truth that, when you are constantly busy playing a victim, constantly demanding the world apologize to you, you will inadvertently miss out on your own life. The British royal family will still exist, history will still move forward. But the warm family times, the lost moments of connection, will forever leave a wound that can never be healed. And at the very end of this story, people only feel sorry for a prince who has stripped himself of the most precious privilege in the world, the privilege of being with his family in the times they need him the most. Looking back at the whole story today, you see, we are witnessing a truly saddening contrast. On one side of the ocean, the British royal family continues to move forward with calmness, steadiness, and dedicated service to the public. On the other side, Harry is locking himself in an incredibly suffocating life, surrounded by fears that perhaps he himself blew out of proportion. Protecting the wife and children of a man is the instinct of any man, we all understand that. But to tell you the truth, when caution turns into an extreme obsession, those expensive security reports no longer shield you from danger. They are only building an invisible prison, holding your own life and mind captive. The greatest legacy that the late Princess Diana left behind is absolutely not a fleet of police escort cars clearing the way, but love and the bond of blood brotherhood. Unfortunately, amidst the calculations of loss and gain, the media dramas, and the ego that refuses to be lowered, that precious thing is drifting further and further away from the reach of Harry. Lost time is something no million-dollar security team can ever bring back. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with me to dissect this hidden corner. What do you think about the future of Harry and his next steps? Please share your thoughts right below in the comments section. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.